Doc, how are you?
Good,
Oh,
good. And you?
We are good, man. We are good. Are you struggling with the network? Do you want subsidy?
Yeah, that would be great, man.
Yeah. You should come to Northwest. We don't struggle
mm,
with network here, man.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know because your slope also is very smooth one. You know, you don't have hills and all these. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just flat. I
mm.
like it,
Yeah.
but when you're driving, it's tiring because you can see from very far.
Yeah, that's
And
true. Yeah. That's true.
yeah. But yeah, crop wise, it's good because also you are the largest producer or second largest producer of maize because we have that flat slope.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
each and every drop of rain just goes
We
down to
get
the
it
soil.
all. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. No, we'll start in no time. Let's wait for 3 o'clock. Then we'll start with our program.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You'll get to know everyone as we move along. Hey, Jiva. You're muted, Mfondin.
Hey, good people.
Hey, Jiva.
How are you? How are you, Dr. Zantsi?
Yeah, uba utiba. I see you're a big man now.
I am still young, bro. I'm still
Last
young.
time I saw you, you were very thin, man.
Just like this one.
No, not the last. Dr. Christian.
Eh?
No, I'm asking Piwe. Who is he referring to?
Yes, Dr. Christian, he was very thin. Very thin.
So,
Less than me.
yeah, sometimes you realize that you are not ugly, you are not thin, but it's only the environment that restrict you from being a big man.
No, put it straightforward. It's a matter of money.
There is no
No, we are like, if you're saying it's a matter of money, you may be right because money is part of the resources. So my take on that is that we are like seeds. You
Yeah.
know, all the good seeds or in every seed, if you plant it to the soil, it depends on the soil and the climate for it to produce good fruit or to be to give you a good yield. So yeah, even in people, if you put any environment, it depends on the environment and what that of the environment.
That's
Even
true.
seeds are
That's
good
true.
seeds that can tolerate drought, all of those, you know. So
Hey,
maybe
your
Christian
internet.
didn't these harsh things, you know. That's what back then.
I think we are losing you somehow, Dr. Zanzi. What's happening?
Is it?
Yeah,
I we can't hear you.
Uh,
we can't hear you at all.
at all?
You are
Yeah.
better now, a bit,
But
Okay.
soon,
but it's slowly.
in less than
Let me check my connection.
Yeah,
Let me
please
check my connections.
fix it now so that when we start, you are okay.
hey,
Just
Uh,
solve it.
I can see my professor there.
Why with big quotes now? This
It's
guy.
cold, Mzu. It's cold. It's cold, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's very cold, man.
All right, Prof. Okay, we have few minutes left. We will start soon. Okay. Hello, 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 everyone. On my side, it's exactly 3 o'clock, and I think we should start. I see some people are still on the waiting room, but the system will admit them automatically. I hope you can hear me. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you, Prof. I'm very excited to have this conversation for today. And particularly, I'm excited because the person who's going to present today was once my classmate at some point. and we are in the same, field of agricultural economics, but different universities. So I'm very, very excited to have the conversation for today. But before I can start, I want to mention a few things. Firstly, is that all the attendees are muted just because we don't want anyone to hijack our seminar, and we don't want to see what you are doing, in your backgrounds. COVID-19 has showed us flames. People were not attending meetings, but only attending, by the sake of being on the app. So before we introduce our guest lecture, can I call upon our head of department, Professor Litswalo, to briefly tell everyone who's in attendance about the departmental strategy, as well as the series of seminars that we currently having. Thank you, Prof. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Christian, and welcome everybody. This department is on high gear. We are having ambitions. We want to be, involved in the international discourse. And I'm so grateful to organizers of this series of lectures, and much more. Really welcome our guest today. I'm talking about Dr. Zantsi, who's going to tell us about land issues. All we know, it's so limited, but I'm sure at the end of this public lecture or the guest lecture, we will be understanding a lot more. All we know is that there's been, programs that have attempted to try and get Black people, into proper perspective, but we want to hear it from the expert today, Dr. Zantsi. You're welcome. And on the case of the department is really strategically positioned. We are making an impact out there. After the external evaluation, our program was evaluated and successfully. So what I'm saying is that it was okay to an extent, and now the university is being evaluated. We are on top gear, and we hope to really, really get where we are targeting. And with these few words, I would like to welcome everybody and say, let's really be all ears and take some notes from Dr. Zantsi. Dr. Zantsi, I'm really grateful that you honored this invitation. And back to you, Chairperson Dr. Christian. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof, with those kind words and the warm welcome. I wanted to confirm, colleagues, that I'm not alone as the chair of the session. In case I lose network or something happens, we have our co-chair, which is Mr. Luvengo Usafa. He's amongst the attendees here. Amongst us, we have the staff members of Agricultural Economics and Extension, the staff members in the Faculty of Agricultural Sciences and Natural Sciences. We also have some students. Some of them will be joining later on because they are attending some practicals. And we also have industry people. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity to introduce our guest lecturer. We have our very own Dr. Siphe Zantsi, who holds a BSc in Agricultural Economics, a BSc in Agricultural Economics Honors, and Masters of Agricultural Economics from the University of Fort Hare in the Eastern Cape. He also holds a PhD in Agricultural Economics from the Stellenbosch University in the Western Cape. In his PhD, his argument was around finding effective ways to include emerging farmers to the commercial sector through the land reform program. Some of the highlights in his findings include finding a variable farm size for emerging farmers, improving beneficiary selection criteria, and also he modeled what we call as the subdivisions of farms. Because of this work, he has been invited to comment on land reform issues by Newsroom Africa, a TV station, I hope you all know it, and Farmers Weekly, as well as different radio stations. Dr. Zantsi has published extensively on both local and international journals. To his credit, he has published over 19 journals in both international and local accredited DHET journals. He has attended over 15 conferences, both locally and internationally. His work is around land reform, specifically land redistribution. With those words, Mr. Dr. Zantsi, you are welcome. Please bless us with your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Christian, and greetings to everyone. Dr. Christian, may you please allow me to share my slides, or you can share the slides from your sides, because here it says only the organizers can present and share.
Sure. Let me quickly do it. I've made you a presenter.
Okay.
So you can be able to share now.
Yes. Okay. Let's see. Let me open it. Okay. Can you see the slides now?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Let's see. Okay. I think you should now. Yes.
Yes, something is coming
You
up.
see now. Yeah.
Yes, we can see now.
Okay.
We can see now. You can put it on the slide, on the presentation mode.
Okay. Great. Okay. Greetings, everyone, and thank you. I already done so. So the network is slow to.
Yeah, I don't want to continue, Dr.
Dr.
Zantsi.
Christian.
Yes. You can continue, Doc.
Okay. Yes, so I would like to thank the economics from Northwest University for inviting me to hold this lecture or share what I know on land redistribution. It's an honor for me. I don't know much, but yeah, I was very surprised to get this invitation. Let's start. My presentation will be on finding solutions on the land reform dilemma in South Africa. So I will focus on land redistribution. The reason being that most of the land is said to be redistributed using this pillar. We know that in land reform we have 3 pillars, but I will talk about those pillars along my presentation. Okay, so on my presentation, I will focus mostly on first defining land reform and the terms that are related to it. Then I will give a background on South African land reform. Afterwards, I will talk about the most pronounced reasons for failed land reform projects. So by projects, yeah, I mean farms that have been redistributed. So we call them projects because they are projects of the Department of Rural Development and Agrarian Reform. Then I will talk about, or I will go on the way of finding solutions to the land redistribution, for land redistribution. And then I will conclude my talk. Okay, now what is land reform and why is it pursued? Land reform mainly exists because of colonialism that we all know affected now what we call countries that fall under the global south, or they are called developing or less developed countries. They are mostly in Africa, Asia, uh, and part of Latin America. South Africa is no exception on that because it also falls under those countries and was colonized by British and also the Netherlands. Land reform is a broader term comprising both
Dr. Zanzi?
land redistribution and
Dr. Zanzi,
land
hello?
tenure reform. So, in other words, land reform
Dr.
is
Zanzi?
a term, it's a broader term for trying to redistribute land. Yes, Christian.
Your slides are not moving. What's happening?
Yes, I'm with you.
Yes, your slides are not moving at all.
I can hear you loud and clear, Dr. Christian.
Yes, I'm saying your slides are not moving, Doc.
Dr. Christian.
Hello. I think your network is very slow. Can you try and check whether your slides are moving?
Dr. Christian. Okay, I can hear you now. See.
Yeah, you can continue, Doc.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So let's go now to. I'll finish on this slide, and then I want to talk about land redistribution. Define land redistribution. So it's an effort by governments to modify the distribution of land ownership. So I think these are the basic terms in today's presentations that we will talk about more often. And then let's go on why governments want or implement land reform. So it's a question or it's a matter of bringing some fairness or justice because most of the land, because of colonialism, you know, the process colonialism, it means to invade a country that is not yours and to change the land ownership and also to change the government of the country to follow the colonialists. So by bringing fairness or justice is to correct those injustices. And then it also it's pursued because countries or governments wants to attain some political stability. Research has shown that land reform, if not implemented correctly, or the land is skewed towards certain people, there will be political instability. So this is important for the country's good look and also the country's network. For example, if you are, as we know, most countries trade with each other and the rest of the world. So investors are reluctant to invest in countries where there is no political stability. So the economy of those countries will not grow or will grow very slow. And then the other reason is for growth and poverty reduction. So in countries that that successfully implemented land reform, will see that there's been some growth, economic growth, and also poverty reduction, because we're moving now resources from the rich to the poor. So in that process, we expect some growth in the economy and also poverty reduction. So countries that have successfully implemented the land reform have seen good results, and those who didn't implement it in a correct way. For example, a good example will be the fast track land reform that was implemented in Zimbabwe. And we see now what is happening in Zimbabwe. It's not the matter of that Zimbabwean people can't farm or black people in Zimbabwe can't farm, but it's a question or a matter of being sanctioned by the world, so they can't trade. That's why in Zimbabwe now you can't find some certain products in grocery stores, and also you can't find fuel. It's highly or very expensive to buy fertilizers, because fertilizers are manufactured in Europe and we buy them from Europe. So now to plow a hectare of land in Zimbabwe, it's more costly, especially if you're far from South Africa, because farmers that the remaining farmers buy their products from South Africa, because now Zimbabwe can't afford to do that. But we are not on Zimbabwe, it's just some illustration and example. Coming to the South African land question, giving some background on it. So according to the white paper, the South African land question, which is land reform, is said to be addressed using three programs, which is land tenure reform. Land tenure reform seeks to give some assurity on the land ownership. So if you have a piece of land, you are assured that we protect the rights that we have over that land. This talks to land that forms under communal tenure, that is land that is jointly owned. So this program seeks to restore or to strengthen those rights of owning land under a communal association. And then the other word is land restitution. So as the name says, it wants to restore land that was forcefully taken during those colonial periods. What do we do in this one, or what the government do in this one? People lodge claims to the department of the land that was taken from them, what was forcefully taken from them, and then the government will reimburse them, either giving them the original land, or they can also choose compensation. And then we have the third pillar, which is land redistribution, which will be the focus of my presentation today, for the reasons that I've already mentioned. So under this program, the government wants to redistribute land in a fair and just manner, because now most of the land is owned by white people, which makes up a minority of South African population. And the black majority owns very few farmland. The latest statistics was saying about 70% of the land is still owned by white people, and the remaining 30 or less than 30 is owned by black people, and other is owned by the government. So under this pillar, there have been so many policies that were implemented or designed and implemented. The first one was Settlement Land Acquisition Strategy, which was known as SLAG. So the government gave beneficiaries 15,000 each, so they will pool these grants to buy a piece of land. After that one, the government moved to the land redistribution for agricultural development, what is called LRAD, which shifted from that, from giving beneficiaries grants. So now the government was focusing on individuals, but with some additional money that will come from the beneficiaries themselves. But currently, the programs that are used to redistribute land is the proactive land acquisition strategy and the state land lease and disposal policy. These are the current policies that are used by the government to acquire land for redistribution. So what has been the progress to date of regarding land redistribution? So some estimates, because we don't have a good statistics or a reliable statistics on how much land has been redistributed. The issue was also one of the issues that were tackled by the president in 2021 national presidential address. So he wanted to establish a land reform committee or a land reform panel that will record all these statistics about how much land have we redistributed, what type of land is that, where is that land, and the beneficiaries of that land. But nevertheless, estimate about 10 to 11% of commercial farmland and say it has been redistributed. So bear in mind that it's from the 122 million hectares, so this is the surface area of South African land. But agricultural land on that could be ranging around maybe 70 million hectares, because other land is for residential purposes, forestries, national parks, and all of that. So this is the land we're talking about. But if you see these references, they are old references. So now it could be somewhere around 15 to 20%, because we don't have a reliable statistics. What has been the reasons under this? So although we have redistributed some land, but on that land, what we see is poor and stagnant productivity in that land. So you will find idle farms or farms with that are vacant and vandalized, and some there's no production at all. But even that, we don't have enough statistics on that. But there has been some good work on this, which gives us a good picture on what is going on in the ground. What has been the most pronounced reason for failed land reform projects? So I've tackled here the most prominent ones. The first one is poor implemented beneficiary selection. So what is the problem with that? The problem is that, okay, let me dive into how the beneficiaries are selected by the government. So in most cases, the government will acquire farms, purchase land on the open market, because that's what we follow: willing buyer, willing seller. And then the government will look at its list of beneficiaries, people who have been applying for farms, to get farms. And then it will select those suitable farmers or beneficiaries for that particular farm, because each beneficiary supposedly has to specify if they want a mixed farm or a crop farm or a livestock only farm or a poultry farm. But that is only on paper. In practice, what happens is that beneficiaries themselves go and look for a land or are approached by commercial farmers who wants to sell their farms. And in this process, there's been so many corrupt actions. For example, we know that some white commercial farmers, they will sell the land to the government at a high prices, exceptionally high prices, than the value that they would sell for if they were selling to other commercial farm. But because it's the government, it is not properly regulated, or there is no proper checks for the valuation of the farm and so forth. So that's how it happens. But what is the issue on selecting the beneficiaries is that there is no appropriate guideline to say, okay, this is how we do. We will buy, we have the farms, so we will select the best candidate for this farm. So that is lacking in the current beneficiary selection. Although there have been some policies that were implemented lately, or they have been gazetted and passed, but we don't see how they have been applied. The second one is failure to consider beneficiary aspirations. What are those beneficiary aspirations? Uh, the first one, or the one that I will rely on, is smaller farm size. There has been a lot of evidence, even from my own survey that I've done for my PhD. And these authors, Alipa and Cousins, as well as Hepping et al., they found that beneficiaries or most small scale farmers want smaller farm size that ranges from, let's say, 1 hectare to around 10 hectares. But farms as today, they are redistributed as they are. Bear in mind that the average commercial farm size today in South Africa is around 2,000 hectares, if you include farms in the Karoo, where the productivity of the land is very poor. So if you take now a beneficiary, a small scale farmer who was owning or was working 2 hectares, and then you give them the whole 2,000 hectares, you see that's a big jump, because firstly, they have no experience on that. Secondly, it will need much more resources to produce on that, which also gives or leads to the next biggest problem, which is the lack or inadequate post-settlement support. So it's lacking in most farms because issuing of farms doesn't go together with giving post-settlement support. The post-settlement support follows after the farm has been redistributed. In other cases, the beneficiary waits for 2 years or even 3 years to get the post-settlement support. Then what happens in the farm during that period? That's why you see vacant farms. That's why we see farms with no productivity at all. In other cases, it's inadequate because they wouldn't provide enough money to finance production. We know that most of the commercial farmers now or today, they secure loans in banks, huge loans for financing production. Because imagine if you're planting 1,000 hectares of maize, how much money would you need to finance that? The fuel that you will use to till the land, the inputs, the seeds, the fertilizers. It's a huge amount of money. which most beneficiaries, because they are poor, can't afford, and they can't even go to the banks because land now or today is given, they are given contracts, so they don't own the land. Also, this will give to the last points, the failure to give beneficiary ownership to the distributed land. The other one is insufficient and mismanagement of land reform budget. We've seen a lot of corrupt activities on this, where only political connected and the same sort of of farmers get the support. That's the other problem, because support for land reform, there is no fixed period to say we will support you for the next 7 years, and then after 7 years you're supposed to have grown and you can stand on your own now. But that's not how it works with South African land reform. They are supporting farmers forever, same farmers forever. And then those who get land, maybe today, they would wait in the queue forever and ever. Those are the most pronounced challenges that are faced by land reform beneficiaries. And this hamper the success of land redistribution. Now, coming to some solutions that we can implement in order to get some success with the land redistribution. So what could then be done to succeed with land redistribution? First, we should talk about the success, because if you find in literature and in everyday talks, you would see that success is defined differently by so many people. So we should have a unified term for success, or a description for success. Part of the success is to create black commercial farmers. That's according to the current policies, plus and the state land lease and disposal policies. I know some other people have their own success in mind, that getting land uh, redistributed and farming, even if it's for you farm under with very poor rates, or what we call maybe the way that that land was farmed before. So the productivity is very low. Some would say they didn't have land to use before. So if we get it, then it's a success. Some, they would say success is, it's mostly related to finding a place that you will call a home, or a land that you can say it's the piece of land that I own. So there are many of these definitions of success. That's the other reason why we don't seem to be moving forward with land reform, because we continue to challenge even the things that have been put down on paper to say, okay, here is the way that we will implement land reform. Then if we fail to implement it correctly, then we come to criticize the policies that have been put in place. So essentially, the few selected beneficiaries, because that's the other thing we should accept, that the land is limited. So only few selected beneficiaries could get land and farm and move from smallholder to commercial agriculture. And part of the success strategies that I will talk about are based on my own work, mostly my PhD thesis, and also some papers that I've published during my PhD and after my PhD. First, I would like us to talk about acknowledging that potential land reform beneficiaries are not homogeneous. What are the potential land reform beneficiaries? It's small-scale farmers. Which type of small-scale farmers? According to those land redistribution policies, the proactive land acquisition strategy and the state land lease and disposal policy, they list categories of farmers. So they list categories of farmers that can benefit in land redistribution. They talk about people who want land for small-scale farming, land that people that want land, very small amount of land, maybe a hectare or two, or less than a hectare, 0.5 hectares. And they list these categories up to people who want land for commercial farming. So what I did here on my survey data on my PhD, I have used cluster analysis to find some clusters that exist within the pool of land reform beneficiaries. So you can see we have so many clusters. So it will be good for the government to first acknowledge this and know that many people won't fall on or don't fall on the category of commercial, of falling to the commercial agriculture. They don't even aspire to do that. Then improving land redistribution beneficiary selection. So as I've highlighted before when I was highlighting the problems. So the problem now is that the redistribution beneficiary selection does not specify or spell out all the processes or all the qualities that should be used when selecting beneficiaries. So in one of my papers, which is listed below and was published in Agricom, I have tackled this problem, and then I suggested that there should be a stipulated and a clear manner to select beneficiaries that will be gazetted or published in newspapers, so that prospective beneficiaries or potential beneficiaries, sorry, could then apply for the farm. So on the advert, it will be like an advert for a job or for a tender. So in such adverts, you spell out all the details. For example, let's say a farm, it will be a land redistribution beneficiary commercial maize farmer in Pumalang. So here we'll spell the duties. What are the duties of the farm? Operating a commercial farming operation located in Delmas, Mpumalanga. So you see there is a location, and also the details are there. Ensuring continued production on the farm and the employment of local community members. Deciding on what and how to produce and where to sell farm outputs. Managing the resources, labor, finances, and equipment of farming businesses in an efficient manner. Producing food or agricultural products for selling and for generating revenue using the available farm resources. Then the vacant farm requirements. So what is expected to the candidate, so that when selecting the candidates, you know, because you will just be ticking the boxes. Okay, he or she qualifies for this, for that, for that, for that. So he or she is suitable for the farm. The candidate must be from a non-white or previously disadvantaged group. That goes without saying, because land reform should benefit the disadvantaged racial groups. Must be an aspiring commercial-oriented smallholder. Must have proven farm management or household farming operation experience, which entails decisions on what and how to produce and managing laborers and financial records, even if on an informal basis. sorry, as we know that most of the small scale farmers, um, they don't manage their farm businesses in a formal manner. Why am I saying this? Because they don't keep records. They can't show you or tell you that, okay, last year I've planted so much and so much in detail. So they will give you estimates, some estimates. So in this one, candidates may also have to be asked to take a written proficiency test to test if they really know how to manage a farm, even if it was a small scale farm, because most of the potential beneficiaries would have been managed or would have been managed some small scale farmers and must be younger than 55 years old. There has been a call for land reform to benefit mostly young people. So this is a good requirement. And must have completed secondary education, must be willing to relocate to the project farm if selected. That's the other issue, which is not looked into by the government, because they often assume that beneficiaries will go. Most people, they refuse to leave their homes and go far away to start a project there. Must participate in a short course and mentorship program. This is enforced in the latest land redistribution policies, that you must have a mentor. They must be willing to undergo assessment and be interviewed by the land reform district committees, which are also set and are in place. And now coming to maybe going back to this one. So this is a fictitious way to depict this one. It could be changed depending on each farm, because we don't have the same set of farms. You will have a crop farm, a mixed farm, and so forth. So the beneficiary will be, these requirements will be changed according to the farm that is being advertised. Now coming to the viable farm size for emerging farm households. Some background on this one. So there has been a call for in scholars that the land reform farms should be subdivided, because people or potential beneficiaries want smaller farm size. But the problem with that, or a challenge, was that some agricultural economists were saying that we should be cautious not to subdivide farms into non-viable pieces. So the question now was that, what is a viable farm size for emerging farm? So I tackled this in one of my papers, which is also published in Agricon. You can see the details there at the bottom. So I've come up with 3 types, because I acknowledge that the size of the farm, that is based on the land, is not a good measure of size, because some lands, they have production or productivity capacity that is so low. For example, land that is in the Karoo, you need maybe 1 hectare or 10 hectares for one sheep. And if you compare that land with an Arab land in KZN, fertile land, where you can plant roses, you can get, the turnover there would be more than 50,000. So you compare those two, and then you look at, you see that this is not a good measure. So a good measure, it should be measured by what that land can produce. That's why I have differentiated the viable farm size for horticulture, livestock, and field crops, grains, and oilseeds. And then I've also categorized the farm sizes according to low aspirant, that is people who are not, who don't have high aspirations. and people who have moderate aspirations and those who have high aspirations in each of these. How did I come up with this? So the viable farm size is a sum of farm income plus net farm income and aspirational income, those three. So the collection of those will give you a viable household income, which we can then relate to what each farm can make. So I have developed this and then come up and then subdivided or come up with the hectarage for each one. So you can see that for horticulture, because the turnover for horticultural land and produce is so high and you get a lot of money in it compared to livestock. That's why you see in livestock we have so huge farms and then field crops just on average. So that's how what the government can use to subdivide the land based on these measures, which is what I propose. Subdividing the land, how should we subdivide the land? By using these viable emerging farm sizes. And then in the data we have modeled in my PhD together with some colleagues, because my PhD was part of a larger project that we hosted together with Swiss guys from Agroscope. So we got a data from commercial farmers and the data from small scale farmers. So in that data, our model results, which I've used in my PhD, we see that if we can subdivide farms, we will get now more farms, because when we subdivide, we get so many pieces, and that could benefit many beneficiaries than what is currently happening. What is that good for or good at? Is that even if the government doesn't provide post-settlement support, if you have a manageable farm size, you can even subsidize or buy inputs from your own pocket. It wouldn't be so much difficult than when you have a 2,000 hectare farm. Most of the research, there are empirical results of that, and I can provide some references for that. They have proven that because beneficiaries also feel that way, that the farms are too large for them. And also coming to the question of selecting very few and then giving them, or they have the obligation to work out the land in a commercially viable way. And also that's also because failed land reform farm or project is a cost to the society, because it's people's monies that are used to buy these farms. It's our taxes that are used to buy these farms. So a failed land reform project, the opportunity cost is so high, because that land could produce so much, which would benefit people and could benefit the economy. So when we see here, we can see that in South Africa, we have that this is the number of commercial farms according to the latest census, about 40,000 and something of farms. So if we subdivide these farms, you see that the increase here is more. We get more farms than we would get if we just redistributed farms as they are. That's what is captured in here. So there's a lot of information. So uh, I won't go into detail on it because you need more time. And then the last issue is improving budgeting and post-settlement support. So I think to effectively and successfully give post-settlement support to land reform beneficiaries, we should establish a fixed period of support for each beneficiary, which is currently missing, as I've already highlighted. So we don't have a specific period that you will support you from now until 20 so much. So if as long as we don't have that and we have limited resources, we won't be able to issue out effective post-settlement support. We will keep on supporting the same beneficiaries, and this opens a loop for corrupt activities, as it's already happening, that fewer people are getting the support, and those are mostly politically connected. Secondly, we should decompose the budget into the budget for acquiring land and budget for acquiring for financing production. And these two should be going together, because you can't, it doesn't make sense to give someone a farm if you wouldn't give them money to finance production. That is to buy inputs to till the land. So it doesn't make sense. In that way, we can have a proper planning and targets for a given budget envelope. This is the other issue. Land reform is only given around one, even or less than 1% of the total budget of the country. But you know, in debates, politicians argue that they prioritize land reform. How, when you're giving it so little money to, 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 to implement? We need more money. So in our result that we produced, and it's part of the paper that I've submitted to Agricultural Economics, the international journal. So the government needs a whole lot more money to redistribute land uh, uh, than what is already in budget for now or is budgeted. So this is a huge issue. I'm not talking about now expropriating without compensation, because if we do that, then we don't need this money, but we will get really bad results. Coming to some conclusions. So to achieve some level of success in land redistribution, we should at least address or do the following. There must be a common understanding of who the emerging farmers are in the South African context, both in conceptual terms and constituents. So we would know, okay, we're talking about this amount of potential beneficiaries. The beneficial selection criteria should be clear, candidate skills spelled out, and transparent to allow accountability. So here we're also putting some fence around it so that there won't be corrupt activities. We should also acknowledge and encompass beneficial aspiration in planning and the design of land redistribution farms. For example, by subdividing farms into those viable farm sizes that I've shown in the presentation. Also, appropriate post-settlement support, sound and relevant agricultural extension and training will also be needed or put in place if we want to succeed, because most of the beneficiaries don't have experience in commercial farming. But what is currently done by the government to give mentors also needs to be monitored, because some mentors don't come with good intentions in mentoring these beneficiaries. They are just doing for the sake of doing it. And the time that they are given, research shows that it's so little, around 2 years or 3 years. But beneficiaries and mentors, they both agreed that is very short period of time, at least 5 years. That's what they say should be given to this. More budget will need to be put in place and well spent. These are some of the little things that we can do in order to attain some success. Of course, there are a lot other things that we can do to succeed. For example, we need um, we need some capacity in the state. What do I mean by capacity? Is that we don't have competent people that are employed by the relevant department that is implementing land redistribution. For example, in restitution cases, the documents or the application were lost, and there's a case, especially that is done in KZN, that has gone even to court because of that. And also, most of the staff in the Department of Rural Development and Agrarian Reform, or the new name which I forgot now because it was changed recently because of the recommendations of the land and agricultural uh, committee or team that was put by the presidents to do some research on land reform. So if we can also beef up that capacity, then we will be able to attain some level of success. So I think I should stop here for now. I can go on and on and on, but in the interest of time, I've tried to summarize this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zantsi. Thank you very much. That was a very informative presentation, and we really appreciate that. So if we can have questions from the floor, at least 2 questions each, I think we'll appreciate that. Yes, please. Avile. Avile, you can unmute your mic.
Thanks, well, thanks for the presentation, Dr. Sant. Mine is to check on the research on which did you focus on specific commodity division is not part of your study. The subdivision is not part of your study. But if it's part of your study, did you consider the commodities, for instance, because for instance, maize, if you have a small plot, you can't be making any money on maize. Let's say you need volumes to see what you are making. So if you consider those things, for instance, on the other aspects of the right beneficiaries, yes, I think that's one of the failures of the land reform and government officials that are not competent. But on the subdivision, I think there's a lot that needs to be done there to categorize on which commodities maybe can be subdivided, which areas, because for grain, if you are a farmer and you have a small plot, there's no economics in that enterprise. So I think more work needs to be done with regards to that, so that at least when we propose this subdivision, we know which enterprises can be accommodated by the subdivision and which cannot be. Otherwise, I'm happy with the presentation and the progress to clarify this land reform. Thanks, Doc.
Dog, is the question clear?
Yes, it's clear. It's clear, Chair.
Okay.
Can you see? Do you still see my slides?
No, not yet.
Not yet. So yeah, I was trying to. Okay, I wanted to show Avuyile the. Okay. Why now? Okay. Yeah. I think now you can see my slides, isn't it?
Yes,
Can you?
Prof.
Yes,
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 Prof.
yes. Yes, okay. So Avuyile, thanks for the question. Yeah, I think it's a really good, it's a good one. Yes, I've considered that in the subdivisions. Remember, I've proposed the subdivision and I've done it theoretically based on these viable farm sizes. So I have categorized it to horticulture, livestock, and field crops. Unfortunately, I couldn't go into each specific crop, but I thought if I do this grouping, at least it will capture the important information to do the subdivision. Yes, subdivision of land won't be an easy thing. Firstly, because we have a law or a policy that prohibits subdivision of agricultural land, but the government doesn't want to scratch that law, because what that law says is it says land, agricultural land uh, shouldn't be subdivided into smaller inviable farm sizes. That's why now I thought, okay, we need to establish a viable farm size and an approved one so that we can bypass that law. Because the only thing that prohibits or it's a challenge is that government doesn't know what a viable farm size is. So for emerging farmers or emerging farm households, I would say, yeah, this one is a viable farm size. The other issues that will be difficult or make it difficult to subdivide land. It's in cases where the land sometimes is there are common sharing water sharing points. For example, a dam which is between two camps of the same farm. Or you can find that the dams in that farm are in one side of the farm and the other doesn't have dams. So you can see in that way. And also poultry buildings. How do you subdivide poultry buildings? So those are exceptional cases that we should also take into account when we do this. So it's not really a straightforward and can be applied to each and all farm. No. For some farms, we can find some difficulties, but in general, in most farms, that's doable. Thank you.
Have we okay?
I'm
Have we
okay, Chair. I think I when I arrived in the presentation, he already passed this stage. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's no problem. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Rubengo Sapam, the co-host, and then we have a second hand from Simangele. Simangele, can you please unmute your mic?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation, Doc. My concern is with those ones that have already given the land. And do we have any success stories whereby, for example, it's a poultry farm, and then you find that the farmer is only using one house? So, do we have any success stories whereby we can then suggest that the government give that person more funding so that he can use or utilize the whole farm? Thank you.
Thank you, Smangele. Thank you for the question. Yes, we have some success stories, some islands of success stories. They are. But yeah, they are really few as you could imagine. For example, the province that has many success stories is the Western Cape. The reason being, you can look it in two ways. In the Western Cape, the amount of land that has been redistributed, it's very little compared to other provinces. Why? Because they tailor the redistribution of land with post-settlement support. So farmers get land reform beneficiaries get land, and subsequently, after getting land, they get funding for financing production. That's why, in many cases, then they succeed. The beneficiaries succeed, which is unlike other provinces where they just boast about numbers of land or hectares of land that has been given out to beneficiaries, but paying little attention to the support that has been given afterwards. So you see that it won't make any economic sense to give to redistribute all the land in South Africa, and then we then say, okay, now we'll start with post-settlement support after we have redistributed all the land. So those are the issues that will hamper our land redistribution. So I wish that we could move to doing this holistically, take a holistical approach, not taking side by sides, because this is these things goes together. Thank you, Smangela.
Thank you, Prof. Smangele.
Thank,
Smangele.
thank you, Chair. I think I'm answered, but I also feel like it has to differ with the different areas. But
Okay.
I so wish those ones that have tried their best, we then give them more support so that they can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Smangele. Anyone who has another question, please? We don't have more questions. Avuile, please ask, unmute and ask.
Thanks, Chair of the session. I'm not sure if I'm out of context, but you'll guide me if I'm out of context. But what I wanted to check from Doc is is he maybe looking in the future to check, for instance, a typical one farmer, how much, for instance, government can budget for one farm, to say that now government is land reform support to a farmer at an average. Of course, you can't satisfy the farmer all its needs. Let's say basics to say to start an enterprise to operate optimally. How much maybe government can I understand that might be a difficult question because it's different, or it will differ on a certain enterprise. But if maybe Doc came across a situation where that particular study was done, where a certain amount is required, for instance, or at an aggregate level, how much government can budget? Yes, I understand. You mentioned the fact that the budget needs to go up, but government, when they plan, of course, they need to get a sense of what they are dealing with, the nature of the animal they are dealing with. I am not sure. I hope you understood that, or anyone who can assist with that, because I think that is also critical, considering, of course, the challenges that we face, fiscal issues and the like. But what can you say maybe is the minimum that government can have per farmer in the worst case scenario? Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Avuyile. You always come up with good questions. Yeah. That's what we need for planning. That's what government needs to do. A really good planning. So yes, we are working on that based on what I've presented today. For each specific farmer, for example, a horticultural farmer, a crop farmer, a livestock farmer, a mixed farmer. So, or a mixed farm, so farms, yes. So we are doing that to see how much money would the government need for each farmer in those categories to support the farmer for 7 years, because we established that period by asking the people who already have who already got farms, that we asked them how much time do they think it's appropriate for the government to support them. How long? How long should be the period of support? And most said 7 years it's sufficient. After 7 years, they can stand on their own. So we are busy with that now. But I can tell you, it's a whole lot of money than what the government is planning now. You can find that that would maybe in some cases, for example, in horticultural farm, that could exceed even half of the budget for the whole land reform, because we're talking about 7 years. And you know, this horticultural farm, for example, if we're talking about a farm that produces nuts, you see that even a hectare of such a farm, it's really expensive to buy, you know. And so talking about financing production, and also uh, uh, putting more measures to make sure that it succeeds. You know, the expertise that are required, they are quite intense, and yeah, it will be more expensive. So I don't have the figures yet now, Avuyile, but in the paper that we are doing, yeah, we will have those figures.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zantsi. Do you have more questions before we close? Prof. Litwalo, are you here? Prof. Litwalo? Prof. Litwalo, for the closing, are you here? Okay, Dr. Christian, can you please close for us, please?
I think Prof is still here. Prof Letswalo? The HOD, Prof? Okay. I think let me...
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay,
Yes, we can
thank
hear
you.
Prof.
Yeah,
Yes.
I had to use another device because the other device has given me problems. I think
There's
it
no
was,
problem.
it was an exceptionally good presentation. And what comes out very clear is that Black people need to be supported. They need to be given land, with the suggestion by the doctor that land should be divided. The policy says it cannot be divided, but we see that there could be a need to do that. The second thing is that what comes out clear out of the presentation is that farmers need support and help, but this support should be really personalized. Not all farmers need money. Some farmers, they are producing well, but they need a market connection. Some farmers need help, yes, with the production. Some farmers need help with the managerial skills and so on. So in my opinion, I think further study should be done on on how to specify and be specific with specific farmers with reference to, because we have seen that a lot of these farmers have been given money, but nothing is happening because money was not the problem. But after all, I think this was a great and beautiful presentation. We have learned a lot. And thank you very much, Doc.
Thank you, Prof. Mzu, you can close now.
Thank you very much, Co-Chair, for that privilege. We are grateful to have had you, Dr. Zantsi, on your presentation, and we are really looking forward to collaborate with you as the Department of Agricultural Economics and Extension in Northwest University Mahikeng campus. Thank you very much, and thanks to all our attendees. Without you, this would not have been. This has not been a success. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.